Miami Stadium. Extra time. 93 minutes on the clock. A goalkeeper spills a shot he should have held, and there's only one player on that pitch quick enough to punish it. Jude Bellingham again. Norway 1, England 2. Full time after extra time in the most brutal heat this World Cup has produced. Bellingham scored both England goals. Both of them. His second straight brace of this tournament. His sixth goal of the summer. England are in the semi-final, and for the second knockout match running, one player has been the entire difference. The pre-match story was supposed to be Erling Haaland against Harry Kane. It ended up being neither of them. It was Jude Bellingham, and the World Cup still doesn't have an answer for him. David Beckham was in the stands in Miami, wearing a suit in stadium heat that made the pitch feel closer to a sauna than a football ground. Norwegian fans did their now viral Viking row in the concourses before kickoff. England supporters spent 90 minutes waiting for something to celebrate. By the end of it, they were chanting one name so loudly it drowned out everything else in the stadium. Let's go through exactly what happened, because the numbers alone don't capture how this match actually played out. There was a warning sign early. Jordan Pickford looked uneasy dealing with crosses from the opening whistle, and in the 36th minute it cost England. Andreas Sheldrup floated a ball in from the left. Pickford pulled his hand away from it at the last second instead of committing, and the ball drifted over him and in off the post. A goal England's own goalkeeper will want to forget, and suddenly a Norway side that had already produced the campaign of their lives had a genuine chance to knock out one of the tournament favourites. England looked rattled. Alexander Sørloth and Martin Ødegaard both should have doubled the lead before half-time and didn't. Then, in first half stoppage time, Bellingham decided the story wasn't going to end there. He ran onto a pass from Anthony Gordon, drove straight into the box, and drilled it into the bottom corner. One touch to take it forward, one to finish. No hesitation. England went in level at the break, and it was entirely down to one midfielder deciding the match needed him before anyone asked. Here's the part of this game that should genuinely worry the rest of the draw. The second half belonged to Norway. England looked sluggish in the heat, managing just 0.09 expected goals across the entire second period, and Norway kept coming, kept pressing, kept looking like the team more likely to find a winner. Bukayo Saka delivered two dangerous crosses England couldn't finish. Bellingham himself had a clear sight of goal and didn't take it. For long stretches, this looked like Norway's night, and then extra time arrived, and it turned into Bellingham's night instead. 3 minutes into extra time, Morgan Rogers hit a shot from the edge of the box. Ørjan Nyland, who had been excellent for most of the match, spilled it, and the only player in that stadium reacting fast enough to slide the rebound home was Bellingham. His second goal, England's winner. A stadium full of England fans chanting his name before the ball had even stopped rolling into the net. It still wasn't over. Jed Spence went down in the box moments later, and England thought they had a second penalty of the knockout stages, only for VAR to overturn the decision after review. Nyland then produced two more saves in the second period of extra time, denying both Spence and Bukayo Saka, keeping Norway's slim hopes of an equaliser alive until the very last whistle. Norway have their own case for feeling hard done by in this game too, having had a goal of their own chalked off earlier in the match. This was not a comfortable one-sided England win. It was a genuine knockout classic that could have swung either way in its final 10 minutes, and it still ended with the same name on the scoresheet twice. That is now back-to-back knockout matches, where Bellingham has scored twice to drag England through. Against Mexico in the round of 16, now against Norway in the quarterfinal. Nobody else at this World Cup is doing that. Not Kane, who was quiet for large spells of this one. Not Mbappé. Not even Messi, who scored his 8th of the tournament earlier in the week, but has never had to produce a brace to save his team's World Cup in the same match, twice in a row. At the knockout stage, it's worth remembering where this version of Bellingham comes from. At Real Madrid, he built his reputation as a box-to-box midfielder before Carlo, someone who arrived late into the box to devastating effect across his first 2 seasons in Spain. Under Xabi Alonso this season, the role shifted again back toward being the engine of the entire team rather than just its finisher. What we watched in Miami was both versions of him at once. The midfielder who tracks back and competes for every ball, and the finisher who arrives in exactly the right spot when the chance falls. Here's what makes this even more remarkable. This wasn't a dominant England performance where Bellingham simply capitalised on a team playing well. England were second best for large chunks of this game. They were outplayed territorially in the second half. They needed a goalkeeping error to even get the winner. And somehow, through all of that, the result was still the same as it's been all tournament. Bellingham finds a way. Now let's talk about the man on the other side of this result. Erling Haaland. the joint top scorer of this entire World Cup heading into kickoff, was held to 21 touches across 105 minutes. 21 touches in almost 2 full hours of football from the most dangerous striker in the tournament. England's back line, marshalled by a midfield that never stopped working, simply refused to let the ball reach him in space. He was withdrawn late in normal time with what looked like a leg problem, his World Cup ending not with one last moment of magic, but on the bench, watching the match he'd carried his country to slip away from Norway in extra time. That is not a coincidence. It's the same pattern that's followed Bellingham through this entire tournament. He doesn't just create going forward, he takes away the platform his opponents need. Whatever damage Norway did to England defensively in that second half, Bellingham had already done enough at the other end, and enough in midfield to make sure it wasn't enough. And spare a thought for Harry Kane. This was supposed to be his tournament too, the one that finally delivers the trophy that's eluded him his entire career. Instead, he was a peripheral figure in his own quarterfinal, beaten to a header early on, quiet for large stretches, watching a 22-year-old become the story of the match for the second knockout round running. Kane will get more chances before this tournament is over, but right now, this is not his World Cup to define. It's Bellingham's think about what it actually takes to keep producing moments like this. Bellingham isn't walking into these knockout matches as a fresh face with nothing to lose. He is now the single most watched player left in this competition, the one every future opponent will spend their entire week of preparation trying to nullify. Every tackle he wins, every yard he covers, every shot he takes from now until the final whistle of this tournament is going to be picked apart, analysed, and game planned against. And so far, none of that pressure has slowed him down. If anything, the bigger the match, the more direct his end product has become. Here's the bigger picture now. Thomas Tuchel's England are 2 wins away from a first World Cup title since 1966. And for the second straight knockout round, the reason isn't the captain everyone talks about before kickoff. It's the 22-year-old who has now scored 6 goals this tournament, most of them arriving at the exact moment his team needed someone to refuse to go out. Spain have already booked their place in the other semi-final against France, set for Tuesday in Dallas. England will face the winner of Argentina and Switzerland, still to be decided, in what is shaping up to be as difficult a route to a final as any team has faced in years. Think about the version of Bellingham that's shown up on the biggest occasions this tournament. Under pressure, behind in a knockout match, with his team struggling to create against a deep, organised defence. Twice now he has been the one to find the moment nobody else could. That is not form. That is not luck running twice in a row. That is a player who has decided the bigger the stage, the more he wants the ball, and Norway. Let's be fair to them because they earned it. A country that hadn't qualified for a World Cup in 28 years walked out of this tournament having reached a first ever quarter-final, having eliminated 5-time champions Brazil along the way, having turned a stadium chant into a moment the entire football world is still talking about. Outside Miami Stadium before kickoff, Norwegian fans were doing their now famous Viking row together in the stands, the same celebration that's gone viral across the sport all summer. They dominated large parts of this match against one of the tournament favourites and still nearly won it. Haaland leaves this World Cup with his reputation only strengthened by what he built here, even if his night ended on the bench instead of on the score sheet. But the story of this match, and increasingly the story of this entire England run, belongs to one player. So here's the real question heading into the semi-final. If Bellingham can produce a match-winning brace against a Norway side that outplayed England for large stretches of this game, in brutal heat, in extra time, with the game still hanging on a disallowed goal and a stack of last-gasp saves at the other end, what exactly does the next opponent do differently? Argentina and Switzerland are still fighting it out for the right to find out. Whoever wins that match gets a few extra days to study the tape, to look for the one gap in Bellingham's game nobody else has found yet. Good luck with that. 2 knockout rounds into this tournament, the smartest coaches in world football haven't managed it. Norway pressed him, sat off him, tried to crowd him out of the game entirely in that second half, and it still ended with his name on the score sheet twice. Comment below, is this now the best individual World Cup knockout stretch by any player left in the tournament? Tell us if anyone else compares, and subscribe. Because 2 knockout rounds, 2 Bellingham braces, and England are still standing. The World Cup still doesn't have an answer for Jude Bellingham. There are only 2 matches left to find one.